If you have watched this channel for a while, you've seen the changes we've made to our room. Everything from the rugs to the furniture, even the walls have changed. Heck, some of you are still talking about our wood slat wall. And the truth is, if I could go back in time, I would do a lot of things differently. Now, I 100% stand by my decision to tear down our wood slats, but my impatience in getting rid of them set off a chain reaction of decisions and purchases that haven't brought me any closer to my end goal. Now, we originally designed this space back in Austin without having seen it. It's true, we bought this house sight unseen at a time when you had about 5 minutes to make a decision in what is likely the biggest financial decision a person ever makes. And as a result, our entire design direction was very heavily influenced by what we thought would work and look good based on real estate photographs and room dimension. Kind of like choosing a speaker solely off its measurements. Another thing we had to contend with was the fact that our living room is not just a living room, it's a film set, not to mention a testing ground for everything you see on this channel. Obviously, our room plays a vital role in our ability to evaluate products, but more importantly, it also plays a role in your perception of that evaluation. Factor in audiophiles and home theater enthusiasts need to see certain things in a room, things like room treatments or measurement graphs, to validate or discredit what they're being told, even if those visual cues do little to influence what I or any listener is actually hearing. Now, to be crystal clear, I am not saying that room treatments and measurements don't matter or that acoustics is junk science. What I am saying is that there is more to room acoustics than simply slapping a few panels on a wall based on what you see on a Reddit post. A room's dimensions, the placement of your speakers, and your relative seating distance to both play as much, if not a larger role in what you're going to experience versus the size, shape, or number of acoustic panels you use. Panels are great for addressing things like peaks in bass or treble, curbing echo by shortening decay times, and in the case of dedicated home theaters, even producing a measure of sound isolation. Still, they can just as easily rob a room of its, special sauce or change the sound of a system when overused. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone, stand in the middle of an empty room, clap, and then, snap their fingers and through editing show their room filled with treatments, now with less or no echo? Most of us automatically think that must mean the room sounds better, if not great. I mean, it definitely makes for a compelling before and after, but really, it says very little about how the system will sound. It just proves there's less echo. And before some of you haters celebrate with a resounding, we got him, understand that while lower decay times or less echo is essential, it doesn't mean the fundamentals of room layout, equipment placement, and, just seating positions suddenly don't matter, or that you can't achieve similar results in other ways. Which takes me back to the beginning. When we moved here, I had 3 main goals: to create a visually elevated space to demo and showcase equipment for our videos, to create a review-worthy room that was multi-purpose, with respect to being able to work for both hi-fi and home theater, and to satisfy die-hard enthusiasts by including treatments and other acoustic solutions that would hopefully cut down on the amount of trolling comments that we received daily about our room back in Austin. And you know what? It worked. As a result of our 3-part series detailing, the initial construction of our room, the first year we were in this house, the number of comments about the efficacy of our room diminished. And my mental state improved, and for a while, I was happy. But after about a year or so, I started to get restless. Not because my room suddenly looked or sounded bad, but because creatively, my canvas wasn't changing. Couple that with the absolute explosion in popularity of wood-slatted feature walls. I mean, I felt like I was seeing them just everywhere, and I started to hate our living room. When a well-known loudspeaker brand copied the look of our room for one of their own marketing campaigns, oh boy, it was time for a change. I will admit something to you that I'm not proud of. I am a very meticulous, methodical person until I'm not. If you've known me for any period, you've probably witnessed or at least have heard a story or two about my tendency to hit what has been dubbed the fuck it button. Plans are all well and good, but they can just as quickly become blueprints for doing nothing. And after weeks and months of trying to come up with a plan for what to do with our room before tearing our main wall apart, I'm not proud of it. But I hit that button hard. Our poor front wall became the proverbial fax machine in office space. I mean, I ripped our room apart first with my bare hands, and when that no longer worked, I grabbed a sledgehammer and a sawzall until there was absolutely nothing left. I'm not gonna lie, it felt good. I've never looked at a blank wall with so much delight as I did the afternoon it all came down. But the high, oh boy, it only lasts so long when you don't have a plan. So after staring at the mess that I had created for a few days, I decided to build some very basic acoustic type panels with fabric that I sourced online. What was going to be a temporary solution has turned into a very long-term reminder that once again, I've just been stuck. Don't get me wrong, I still think these DIY panels work great, especially if you're on a tight budget or live in a rental, or maybe you just don't want your acoustic treatments to be obvious and look like a box spring is hanging on your wall. I know a lot of you had hoped that I would make a video about the fabric panels, and I'm really, really sorry that I just never got around to it. But during all this time, I did learn something that flew in the face of all of my room planning. The sound of my room didn't really change with or without the fabric panels. I mean, measurement after measurement, multiple speakers responded the same as they did with the treatments in place versus without. Even my RT60 times were relatively unaffected, and this genuinely confused me because when we initially built our slat wall, it did make a difference, especially with the room's overall decay times. Well, things had changed. You see, I had done my before and after measurements 3 years ago, first in an empty room and then with the slat wall in place with minimal furnishings. And in that particular circumstance, the presence of the feature wall made a significant impact on both the measured and audible results of the room. But fast forward 2 years, and the dramatic effect our wall once had, it wasn't so dramatic because the rest of the room had since been filled with other items. Not to mention, the adjacent spaces in our open concept home were no longer empty. And this means that the overall sonic character and just balance of our home had shifted the longer we lived in it. I just didn't notice. Despite having hard data telling me that the treatments we had built were no longer necessary, I will admit I still lived in a bit of fear over what viewers, heck, even brands might think about whether or not our room was worthy of the products we reviewed. So I kept the fabric wall panels installed to alleviate any concerns. And it worked for the most part. I mean, we still get the occasional, is your room treated questions. I guess that just means I did too good a job at hiding the panels. Again, I'm not saying that acoustics don't matter. They do. But what I hope I'm helping to illustrate is the very real reality that treatments may not always be necessary or the right solution for every room. In a largely empty room, which, let's be real, most dedicated listening spaces are, treatments and proper acoustic principles are going to be more critical and play, potentially, a larger role than, say, a jam-packed living space that pulls double, if not triple duty daily. When I initially brought you our home reno videos, I was, in effect, building out a more dedicated listening room. I just got really caught up in trying to satisfy everyone's expectations. So fast forward to today, and I'm finally forcing myself to remember that this space is also our home. And that's what I want to create next. Not the ultimate reviewer YouTube space for you, but the best representation of what Christy and I want for ourselves. Not that I don't love you guys, but for the past 5 years, I really feel as if many of the decisions we've made in work and in life have been primarily motivated by this channel and what y'all will think and what effect that will have on our evaluations and opinions versus truly being happy while living with all of these wonderful pieces in a more meaningful and realistic way. I am not abandoning hi-fi and home theater, nor will I try and convince you that what I'm about to do is right or that everyone else's way is wrong. But I want to try and create a space that is just a better reflection of who we are, curate a better collection of pieces, both hi-fi and home theater, and really take the time to show you what it's like when products integrate and disappear into your life. So rather than catering to the spec-obsessed and everything on this channel needing to fall within a tiered system of good, better, and best, I would like to shift some of our focus towards illustrating the who, the what, and the why of the products we choose to bring into our space and how that may translate into your life. But more than that, I also want to push the boundaries of what's possible. I want to focus a little bit more on what's coming around the bend rather than everything having to be just so immediate. I want to take things beyond just hi-fi and home theater too. If you've watched any of our recent live streams, or if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen that we've branched out into other topics and we've had some really fun discussions. By getting out of this room from time to time, it's going to allow me, hell, us, to be more creative with how we live with and enjoy music. Heck, I've even started to draw up plans to build out a home gym that I want to share with you. And before some of you get a little too excited, okay, I don't want some sort of like Punisher-inspired bro brothel, but a gym for grown-ups. You know, adults who aren't looking to flex, but, rather be flexible and stay healthy. Of course, that room will need audio and video, so you see, it's all connected. But it's all going to start right here in this space. Over the next few weeks and even months, there's going to be some changes, including, hopefully, several big deliveries and unboxings you're not going to want to miss. So stay tuned, because this is just the beginning.